Hi guys, welcome back to our week 3 meeting. Let me see who is here. Christine's here, May, Herman, Christy, and Jojo. All right, so okay. All right, so our week 3 meeting. Let me see who is here. Christine's here. Let me turn this off. Okay. All right, much better now. All right, so let's talk about this week. Now, guys, make sure to keep doing your homework and quizzes. And then now, if for some reason, if you miss your deadline for either the homework or the quizzes, let me know. Send me email. I can reopen or extend them for you. Okay. Let me see who is here. Sia, Lalu, Alex. Sia, let me know what your full name is so I can get you the credit on your exams. Okay. All right. So. All right. So let's get started on chapter 5 and 6. Now, let me do my screen sharing. Share. All right, so let's start on chapter 5. So chapter 5 is talking about this thing called national income or national income accounting. It's a very straightforward chapter, but there is some important concept in here. And then guys, just like before, if you have any questions during the lecture, so make sure just put your questions into the chat box, and I'll answer them as soon as I see it. So I have two screens in front of me, so if you do put a question there, I see it most likely right away. And for many of you guys who's watching this recorded session, make sure to put your comments in the comment box so we can get you the extra credit on the test. Okay, so this is the last or this is the week before your first test. So your first test covered chapter 1 through 6. All right, so chapter 5, let's cover some definitions. Chapter 5 is mostly definitions and some very simple calculations. So first, what you need to know is what is the GDP, or the gross domestic product. So for gross domestic product, this measures everything a country produce. Now this is your good and service. Now here's some keyword here. So the first keyword in your definition for GDP is that GDP measures all the final good and service. Now, when it says final good and service, it means that this is ready for final consumption by the end user. So that would be a final good and service. Now, the difference is that let's suppose you have a pack of printer paper. If a consumer buy it, we're going to use it and then make notes on it. That will be a final good. But if business buy this paper and then make this into a textbook, then that will be an intermediate good. So GDP only capture all the final good. We don't care any of the intermediate good. So we're going to ignore all the intermediate good. And the reason why we're going to ignore all the intermediate good is that for the intermediate good, if you count it once, you might be tempted to count it twice once it's finally produced. So there is a double counting issue with all the intermediate good. So therefore, for GDPs, we don't care about anything of the intermediate good. All we care about is the final goods for all the final good and service produced in the country in a given time period. And guys also need to know the difference between the GDP and something called a GMP. So GDP is our gross domestic product. It measures everything produced within the nation's border. So anything produced in the country is our GDP. Now GMP is anything produced by the home economy. So let's suppose we have Ford, which is a U.S. company. If Ford produce a car in Mexico, that'd be Mexico's GDP because that's produced inside of Mexico. But because Ford is a U.S. company, that's our company. So this car produced in Mexico is our GMP, the gross national product. Is everything produced by within the border. GMP is everything produced by the home economy. So all the U.S. company, doesn't matter whether they produce this good, that is our GMP. Okay. All right. So know the difference between intermediate good and final good. So intermediate good is anything purchased to be used as an input production of something else. So that will be an intermediate good. Let's see what else you need to know for this. So know what's a GDP per capita. Per capita, it's just your GDP divided by total population. That's your GDP per capita. So may I ask a question? Can we do any exercise before the test? We don't have any exercise before the test. The best way to review for the test is to go over all the old quizzes. So guys, if you go back to the quizzes, you can still look at the question with answers. Many questions on the test actually coming directly from your old quizzes. So if you can understand everything on the quiz, if you understand everything from the quiz, you'll be fine on the test. Okay, so I'm sorry we don't have any practice test, but the best way to study for it is to go back to look at all the old quizzes. Okay, yeah, guys, if you have any questions, just post on the chat box, and I'll answer them when I see it. All right, now GDP per capita. So this measurement actually shows you how rich the country is. So if the country is very rich, then the GDP per capita is very high, and the vice versa for a country who are very poor, they usually have a very low GDP per capita. And when you have a question, is the test set up like the quiz? Yes, so it'll be the same format. So the test is also multiple choice questions, 50 questions. So I believe on the test you have 2 tries, and then it will take the highest grade. So yeah, don't just do 1 try, do 2 tries, just in case you get a better grade on the second try. Okay. All right. Oh, by the way, guys, right now the country with the highest GDP per capita is a country called Qatar. Now, US, we rank pretty high. We're number 8 or number 9 on the list, but Qatar is number 1. The reason why Qatar is number 1 because they produce a lot of oil, and for those oils that they don't have that many population, so when they divide it per person, each person get a bigger pie, a bigger size of pie compared to everybody else. So that's why Qatar has the highest GDP per capita. So may I ask, can we access the exam early? Guys, to be honest with you, everything is opened. So not only can you access your exam 1 early, you can access anything early, everything early too. So all the homework quizzes, all the exams, they're all open now. Now, even though each one has a due date, but there is no beginning date. So right now, everything is open. So if you want to do it early, then go ahead, do it early. And then really, if you want to finish everything, within 2 weeks, there's nothing stopping you from finish everything within 2 weeks. It's just that your weekly discussions on Canvas, those are open from week to week. So make sure to check out on your discussions. All right. So next, let me see. All right. So what GDP doesn't measure. So GDP is not a perfect calculation. There are certain stuff that GDP doesn't measure. One of the biggest category is any type of non-market activity. The GDP does not measure that. So anything that's produced at the house, in home. So let's suppose that your mom make a meal for you. And then if your dad mowed the lawn for the family, so all those unpaid homework, home stuff, home production, they are not part of GDP. And then by the way, if you want to know which profession is the most underpaid profession in the economy, is mom, because mom does everything for us. They cook, they clean, they drive us everywhere. They also give us advice, provide nursing care, but we don't pay them anything. Even though you might say that we will pay them with love, but guess what? Your love is worthless. Your love cannot pay the bills. Okay, so because everything your mom does is all left unpaid, so we say the profession for mom is actually the most underpaid profession in the economy. Okay, and then because everything your mom does is all not paid, so your all those activities your mom does, they're not part of GDP. And then the second category for this non-market activity is any type of off-the-book activities. So any type of illegal payment, they are not part of GDP. I mean, can you imagine? Let's say that if you're Colombia, and then you call each drug dealer, ask each drug dealer saying, "Hey, drug dealer, how much money did you make last year?" Of course, they're not going to tell you. So anything that's off the book, that's not reported, is not part of GDP. Okay. All right, so know the difference between your nominal GDP and the real GDP. So nominal GDP is your GDP measured in your current year prices, and then real GDP is a GDP measured in your base year price, which is adjusted for inflation. Now the difference is the GDP give you the market value of everything you produce. So when you produce more good, your GDP is increasing, which means the economy is getting better. But on the other side, if you produce the same number of good, but if your price for the good is increasing, the market value for the good also increases as well. So we don't want that, because if you just have a higher prices, it doesn't mean you have more stuff. Now, for every economy, and even for you guys here, so for everybody here in the economy, you don't, well, sure you want to know how much money you have, but the bottom line is you don't care about how much money you have. You care about how much stuff you have, or how much stuff you can buy with your money. So let me give you an example. Let's say, suppose Heyman and Wendy and Mai and Jessica, so Lane, suppose I give you guys $1 million. So it's your money, $1 million, but with only one catch. Now you can look at it, you can touch it, but you can never spend it. Then what's money good for? Nothing, right? So money is only good when you actually buy something for it. So that's why we don't care about the price change. We care about the quantity change. We care about how much extra stuff you have. So when you look at the nominal GDP measures both the price change and quantity change. Now the real GDP, that because you use your price all from the same base year, so price never change. So the only thing changing in real GDP is your quantity. So real GDP give you a better picture of how good the economy is and how much more stuff you have. So for every economy, the more stuff you have, the better you are. And then if for individual consumers, again, we don't care about how much money you have. We care about how much stuff you have. The more stuff you have, the better you are. Okay. All right. So when you're looking for the real GDP, we're going to use our nominal GDP. Do I have a definition here? It doesn't give us a definition. All right, that's fine. So to find, when you compare your real GDP and nominal GDP, you're going to use your nominal GDP divided by the price index that will give you your real GDP. And then the price index, let me give you a better formula for this nominal and real GDP. Okay, I know that this is the one from the PowerPoint, but this might not be very helpful when you do your homework. So for the nominal and real GDP, here, let me open up the notes. Microsoft, give me, where's Office? Oh, OneNote, here we go. All right, so your nominal GDP equals to the price in your current year times the quantity in your current year. And then your real GDP goes to your price in your base year times quantity in your current year. All right, so what that means suppose that you have a, let's say we have example here. Let's say we have 2 years, 2010 and 2011. And let's suppose we produce coffee and pizza. And then the price for each coffee for 2010, let's call it $5. For each pizza is 10. And then for 20, so this is the price over here. So price for coffee, price for pizza. And then for 2011, let's call it $6. and then pizza will be $12 for each one. And then for quantity, we have coffee and pizza. All right, so this one, let's suppose we produce 10 cup of coffee in 2010, and then 10 pizza in 2010, and then for 2011, let's do 12 and 12. So if that's the case, then your nominal GDP. Now, for nominal, so let's do this for 2010 first. So for 2010, that will be your price of 2010 times quantity of 2010. So that would be 5 times 10. So $5 for each coffee times 10 coffee in 2010, plus $10 for each pizza times 10 pizza in 2010. So this would be total of what, 150. That's your nominal GDP. And then the nominal GDP of 2011, this will be price of 2011 times quantity of 2011. So I'm going to do price times quantity for each one. So 6 times 12 and plus 12 times 12. That's a 12, guys. So it's pretty ugly 12, but it's a 12. Okay. Now for real GDP, I'm going to do, now let's suppose the base year is 2010. Okay. So base year 2010, and then real GDP in 2010. So this would be your price in your base year times quantity in your current year 2010. Now, since your price is your price 20, I mean your base year 2010 and the real GDP 2010, so this will be the same. So 5 times 10 plus 10 times 10, and then still give you 150. Now for real GDP 2011, that'll be a little different. So real GDP in 2011, this will be your price in the same base year, so which is the price in 2010 times quantity in 2011. So for pizza, our price for 2010 will be $5, and then for coffee it's $5, pizza $10, and then this is the quantity for 2011. So 5 times 12, and then 10 times 12. So real GDP will be 5 times 12 plus 10 times 12. And then once you finish, this answer will be your real GDP. So the difference between your nominal GDP and then real GDP is that for nominal GDP, everything changes. So price increase, quantity increase. And then for real GDP is that your price stay the same. So it's always the same base year price. And then quantity increases. So quantity go up and down, okay? So for real GDP, the only thing you have is a quantity change, and then price never change. All right, let me see what we have here. So Jojo says, my economic teacher from high school is saying that the Chinese cheats. I'm not sure. I don't know what he meant by that either. So I can't tell you that, okay? All right. I'm hoping that he didn't mean what he meant. Okay, so guys, let's continue. All right, so your price index, if you reformat this formula, your price index is your nominal GDP for each year divided by real GDP for each year. That will give you the price index. So guys, make sure you know how this formula works, because on the quiz there will be questions like this. Okay. Let me see what else to talk about. All right, so in chapter 5, you have many of these little formulas you need to worry about. Now, if I were you, I'll just write them down on the notes, so when you guys doing your quizzes at home, you have something to look at it. So, so know what's a net domestic product. Now, I mean, you don't have to really know what that is, but make sure you know the formula, because there will be questions on the test asking for it. So your net domestic product is your GDP minus depreciation. Now, depreciation is just anytime you have a lower in value of your asset, that's a depreciation. So anytime you have a new car, if you drive it, it will lose value. The decrease in value, that's called depreciation. Okay. I know what's a gross investment, what's net investment, so this will be on the quiz as well. But just basic definitions. All right, so GDP has 4 parts. So these 4 components added together, that's our GDP. So it's our so GDP equals to consumption plus investment plus government spending and then plus net export. And then make sure you know the net export, that's your export minus import. That's our net export. Okay. And then import is anything produced overseas but purchased domestically, that's import. And then export is anything produced at home but sold overseas, that's an export. And by the way, if you look at US economy, every year we have more export than import. So our net export is negative. And then if you look at countries like China, Vietnam, even Japan, they have more export than import. So those countries have a positive net export. Okay. So Jojo says that on trade, Chinese cheat. Okay, so we can talk about this. This is more interesting now. So actually, if you ask many trade expert or advisor of trade to President Trump, and they will all tell you that China does have an unfair advantage when they trade with US. And then one of the biggest unfair advantage China has is that the Chinese currency is artificially cheap compared to US currency. Now, so when we think about this concept of currency, we usually tend to believe that if your currency is strong, that's good. But that's not the case in terms of trade. Because when we trade, if your currency is strong, that means everything produced using your currency will be more expensive, and then everything produced using somebody else's currency is cheaper. So what China does, they will pack their currency with US dollar, so their currency is artificially cheaper than what it should be. Therefore, everything produced in China are cheap compared to anything produced anywhere else. Now, on the trade aspect, this is bad. But when we talk about later chapters on international trade, that when country cheat like this, the one who benefit is the U.S. consumers. We're the one who's benefiting because every time China does cheat, they produce their stuff cheaper. And guess what? U.S. consumers, we can buy those stuff cheaper compared to before. So consumers are much better off. I mean, another way to think about it is pretty much like the Chinese government is subsidizing our US consumers. So for everything our US consumer buys, the Chinese government is paying part of it. So in this sense, when the Chinese government cheat on the currency, the US consumers are better off. Okay, I mean, sure, the US business are worse off, but the gain to US consumers can outweigh losses from US business. So overall, the US economy is better off. All right. So make sure you know this. GDP is C plus I plus G plus net export, which is export minus import. Let me see what else to talk about. Okay, so this is important. That's the little formula for NDP, so net domestic product. This is important too. So the formula for your national income is your NDP plus net foreign factor income. Let me see, there are a couple more. So know how to get your personal income. So this formula here, make sure you know how to do this, okay? So how to go from GDP to domestic, to your personal income. So how much money that each consumer has. And your disposable income is your personal income minus personal tax. Let's see. This is important too. So guys, all these little formulas on chapter 5 is important. They're important. And then, if you check on Canvas, I haven't put up the PowerPoints for chapter 5 and 6 on there yet. The reason why is that, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but today the Canvas is a little slow compared to usual. So I'm having a hard time uploading the PowerPoints on there. But probably sometime tonight, I will try one more time and get the PowerPoints online. Okay. Let me see. I think that's it for this chapter. All right. So that's it for this chapter. And next, let's talk about unemployment. So chapter 6. All right. So for unemployment, now make sure to know what's a labor force. So labor force is all the people who are over the age 16 and who are either employed or actively looking for a job. So the same with labor force is that if you here to my pen here. All right, so for labor force, that just because you are over age 16, it doesn't mean that you are automatically in the labor force. So to be in the labor force, you must be either employed or actively looking for a job or unemployed. We call that in the labor force. So everybody else who is not working, who is not looking for a job, we call them out of labor force. Okay. Did I miss anything? All right, so labor force participation rate. So this, the formula for it. Yes, guys, let me see. Here we go. That's probably why. All right, so labor force participation rate, you're gonna use your labor force divided by your population. That will be your labor force participation rate. So right now, for our country, our labor force participation rate is hovering about 74%. So about 74% of the adult population, they're in the labor force, or either working or actively looking for a job. Okay. Now unemployment. This is very critical here. So to be called unemployed, not only do you have to be, not working. So not working. The other very important component is that at the same time, you must be looking for a job to be called unemployed. So if you have anybody who is currently not working and not looking for a job, they are not unemployed. They are not in the labor force. Okay. All right. So no Kuhn's law. So 1% increase in unemployment result in 2% decrease in GDP. Okay. So this is important to you. All right, so unemployment rate. So this will be the number of people who is currently unemployed divided by labor force. That's your unemployment rate. So in 2010, our labor force was 153 million people. Our unemployed was at 14.8 million people. So the unemployment rate is 9.6%. Now, guys, when you do your homework or quizzes, it's a good idea to keep at least 2 decimals on the percentage. So that way, when you run the answer, you get a closest to the right answers. Okay. Now, right now, our unemployment rate is about 4.8%. So it has been cut in half compared to 2010. Let's skip this. Not important. All right, so these are the reasons for unemployment. So job losers account for 63% of unemployment. So these guys, they're the one who actually lost the job involuntarily. So economy slows down, company close down, then they lose their job. We call them unemployed. So Christine asked a question: is it the same with workforce like the one that receive unemployment money while looking for a job? That's right, Christine. So for anybody who is getting the unemployment benefit, they are doing it because they have to be. First of all, guys, if you haven't never heard this before, that the unemployment benefit is for anybody who lost the job involuntarily. So if your company closed down or if you got laid off from work, then you can apply and then receive this unemployment benefit. So you get a check from the government every 2 weeks. Now the check is not much money. I think right now for taxes, the maximum is only 1,800 per month. Now, I could be wrong because the number is probably pretty old. I don't know how much is it now. Okay, so before it was $1,800 per month. And then for this unemployment benefit, you can only receive the money if you are still actively looking for a job. So every week, every month, you have to prove to the state that you are actually looking for a job, therefore to receive your benefit continuously. So they're called unemployed. And then the other three categories, we have job leavers. So they're the people who left the job voluntarily. So they're either quit or getting fired from the work. Okay, and then new entry. So you guys, once you graduate from college, you'll be the new entry. And then re-entry. There are people who left the workforce, but now they're coming back to workforce. So let's suppose anybody, any new mom who just gave birth to a kid, so they take some time off, and then now they come back to the labor force to look for a new job. They're called re-entry. So the biggest part is job losers. So Jojo asked a question. So Obama did a good job on the, I guess you're talking about the unemployment rate. Well, is you can make an argument on both sides, because if you look at the unemployment rate, just based on the numbers, the unemployment rate has been decreasing for the 8 years when Obama is in office. When Obama first took over back in 2008, the economy was a mess. The economy goes through recession, everybody's getting laid off from left and right, and then the unemployment rate within the first year, it went through the roof. And that was not Obama's fault because the economy goes through recession, but the economy did recover, and then now it's getting better and better. Now, even though in Texas it might not feel like it, because in Texas, especially in Houston, our economy is based on oil. So now when oil is so cheap, many of the oil companies, they are laying off employees. But the overall country is doing very good. So many things contribute to it. Obama probably play a part of it, but you can argue to say if there's a small part, a big part. Okay. All right. Now this is important. So know what's a discouraged worker. The discouraged worker is anybody who want to work, who want to find a job, but couldn't find a job, so they decide to stop looking for work. So the key to be called discouraged worker is that they must no longer looking for a job, then they're not part of our labor force, and then which means they're not even part unemployed anymore. And then this discouraged worker, we also call them phantom workers or phantom unemployment, because for those guys, they are unemployed. They don't have a job, but because they're not actively looking for a job, we don't even count them as unemployed. They're not in the labor force. So if you want to make an argument against what President Obama did, that if you look at our labor force participation rate for the last 8 years, has been decreasing for the last 8 years. So even though the unemployment rate has been decreasing, but so is our labor force participation rate. And the reason why is that because we have more and more discouraged workers who stop and give up looking for a job. And then many of the discouraged workers, they're the one who supported President Trump during his election, because President Trump gave him new hope. So Trump says, if you vote for me, I'll make sure a job will come back to America. Now, how true that is, we don't know yet, but at least that's Trump's guarantee. I mean, his proposal. Okay. All right. So that's discouraged worker. Let me see what else. Okay, so notice the 4 categories of unemployment. So first one is called seasonal unemployment. So seasonal unemployment is your unemployment due to seasonal reasons. So it's anybody's job depends on the season. So all the gift wrappers in the mall, or if you're working for a haunted house during Halloween, or if you sell fireworks during July 4th. So all those jobs, we only have them in the season. Once season's over, they don't have a job anymore. And then like another one, Santa Claus. Those small Santa Claus, they're also seasonal unemployment. So because they have a job in November, December, but once December is over, they don't have a job anymore. So that's a seasonal unemployment. Now, if you guys watch Jeopardy, the longest reigning champion on Jeopardy is a guy named Ken Jennings. And then Ken Jennings won over 100 consecutive shows. And then he took home over $2 million in winning. But the question that got him off the show is something to do with seasonal unemployment. So the question was that which major U.S. corporation hire more than half of the employees for less than 6 months of the year. So let me repeat. Okay, so which major U.S. corporation hire more than half of the employees for less than 6 months of the year? So which pretty much means that most people in the company, they are all seasonal workers. And then the Ken Jenny put on Walmart. The answer wasn't Walmart. The answer was H and R Block, because they're the tax company, right? So those employees, they have a job during tax season. When tax is over, they don't have a job anymore. All right, and next is frictional unemployment. So frictional unemployment is just for many people, it takes a very brief time for them to find a next job. So for anybody who is currently in between jobs, we call them frictional unemployment. And then many of the frictional unemployment, they left their work because of their own personal reasons. So when they quit their job, that's called frictional unemployment. Next one is called structural unemployment. Structural unemployment is when you have a mismatch between the skills of the job seeker and the requirement of the available jobs. So let's suppose right now we have opening for 10 doctors. At the same time, we have 10 software engineers looking for a job, or 10 for 10, right? But they don't match. So there's a mismatch between the two. So we call this a structural unemployment. Last one is called cyclical unemployment. So cyclical unemployment is any employment depends on your business cycle. That's called cyclical unemployment. Now, when we say business cycle, what we mean by that is anytime you have a recession. So recession means economy slows down. Economy slows down, then your unemployment will go up. So that's called cyclical unemployment. And then this cyclical unemployment is the reason why we study unemployment. So this is a good indicator of how good the economy is. So when the economy is doing good, your cyclical unemployment is very low. When the economy is doing bad, cyclical unemployment is very high. So during 2008, 2009, when the economy is doing very, very bad, cyclical unemployment in those days was very, very high. At the highest, I believe, was in 2009. The country's unemployment rate was sitting at 10.6%. And then if you look at different part of the country, especially in the Northeast, so states like Michigan, Ohio, Illinois, those unemployment was very, very high. And then in a city like Detroit, for a very long time, the city of Detroit unemployment rate was above 20%. Now, at the same time in Texas, we're about 7 to 8% unemployment rate. And that's because in Texas, we have a more diversified economy, and also many of the jobs are in the oil industry. So we have more jobs available, therefore unemployment rate was lower in Texas compared to Michigan. Now, today the economy is better. So if you look at the unemployment rate in Michigan, it's much lower compared to before. Okay. Okay, let me see. So now what's a full employment? So full employment is when you have zero cyclical unemployment. That's called full employment. Right now, the target for our economy at full employment is at 5%. So now the economy being at 4.8%. So many people argue that currently we are at a full employment. So the economy is doing very, very good for the entire country. Let's see what else I'm going to talk about. Okay, so know what's outsourcing jobs? Outsourcing job, just any relocation productions to other countries. That's the outsourcing jobs. Okay. If you look at the example for outsourcing, let's say textiles. So 40 years ago, all the good T-shirt, all the good jeans, all the good shoes are made in America. Now today we don't make them anymore. Today we did all those jobs. They are all sourced overseas. So countries like China, Cambodia, Vietnam, Philippines, Bangladesh, India, they're making the clothes for us. So that's called outsourcing. Let me see what else. All right, so that's it for chapter 6. Now, does anybody have any question for this week before we call it a day? Let me wait for a minute because there's a delay between my side and your side. Okay. So guys, does anybody have any questions want to ask me? right, I think you guys are good. So no questions. Okay, so guys, if you don't have any questions, let's call it day today. Let me see who is here. Let me get everybody here. So Christine is here, May is here, Heyman's here, Christy's here, Jojo, Sunya is here, Wendy, Lane, Jessica. Okay, I think that's everybody. All right, guys. So let's end here today. If you guys have any questions, just send me an email, and I'll be more than happy to answer questions. Okay, guys. If nothing else, I will see you guys next week. Okay. All right. See you later. Bye bye.